Mina Hives, Sarah Spain, Israel Gutierrez, Clinton Yates. Just so you know, we're doing today's show under fair play rules. If there's a tie going into elimination, total number of mutes decides who gets cut. Also, LeBron and KD, game of telephone, join forces? Conjoin horses? Me, you, Giannis, Wisconsin together? Jet Li and you, Yanni, ensconced in leather? Let's go round the horn.
It's Around the Horn, the show of competitive banter. Here's Tony Reali.
News of the day comes from the NFL. Jamies Winston, personal statement. First and foremost, I'd like to say I'm sorry to the Uber driver for the position I put you in. It is uncharacteristic of me, and I genuinely apologize. In the past 2.5 years, my life has been filled with experiences, opportunities, and events that have helped me grow, mature, and learn, including the fact that I've eliminated alcohol from my life. I know I have to hold myself to a higher standard on and off the field. I apologize to my teammates, the Buccaneers organizations, and fans. And then he goes on to say the NFL suspended him the first 3 games of the season. Sarah Spain, where would you like to begin with this?
Well, I'd like to begin by saying if he feels like he needs to remove alcohol from his life, that's a positive decision for him, but alcohol does not make you a sexual assaulter. Secondly, taking acknowledgement and accountability for what happened with the Uber driver is a good step, since in previous statements he has denied doing this, and it certainly sounds like in his apology he's taking some sort of accountability for it. And most importantly, this is surprising to nobody, and it shouldn't be surprising to the team that at every single turn did their best to try to cover for someone who had proved over and over that he didn't have the maturity or the respect to handle himself in a serious situation like being an NFL quarterback. And I look back at that press conference that announced there wouldn't be charges in his original sexual assault case, at the laughing and the giggling and how lightly everyone took it. And I heed everybody to say again and again, until we have actual proof that this guy is changing who he is and not just making carefully crafted statements to try to prove to us that he has changed, then there's no reason for us to believe that he has. And it's honestly disappointing for any football fan to be forced to watch him play.
Israel Gutierrez, how'd you read Winston's statement?
Very similarly. I think, as a football fan in Tampa, you have to be really wondering whether your quarterback needs a lot more help than what a 3-game suspension is going to provide. Part of what his statement said is this was uncharacteristic of me. Well, I don't know about this particular incident, but there are very many things in your career, whether it be college or the pros, where it says maybe this isn't as uncharacteristic of you as you're trying to make it sound. So maybe Jamies Winston needs more help. We can't just ignore this and say there isn't this sort of jock culture still around this game. We've seen it with so many other athletes. We've seen it with so many other issues. Richie Incognito comes to mind. Go back to Darren Sharper, if you will. There's a lot of these players that take this whole mentality of being the football player and take it to an extreme. And Jamies Winston needs to settle down, needs to be helped, and needs to address his problems, whatever they are.
Mina Khans?
As always, I'm just left with more questions. The first of which is, why 3 games? You remember Ezekiel Elliott was suspended for 6 games. Clearly the NFL is giving him a lighter suspension because he cooperated. But does that mean if you cooperate, they will be more lenient towards you if you assault women than if you deflate footballs? Because that's the message they're sending. My second question is, who is Jamies Winston apologizing to and what for when he says that about the women? Because he also said in the same statement that he disagreed with the suspension. So is he disagreeing with the suspension for something he said he did or not? And then my final question is, what is the NFL doing about this? Because they said, okay, he's going to have therapy and clinical evaluation. For what? They need to use the word sexual assault when they're talking about this and acknowledge the fact that he has a problem with women.
I know those questions were rhetorical in many ways, Mina, but we do have maybe some answers there, right? Are you reading this the same way I am, that this suspension by the NFL is because he didn't properly report the exchange with Uber, which happened 2 years ago and then was investigated 1 year ago? I mean, it seems like that, and I don't want to call that a loophole, but that's kind of where the NFL's investigation went here. Not with what happened, but why he didn't report it. Is that how you read that, Mina?
Yeah, and the fact that it was a settlement, right, that they agreed on it after going back and forth. Again, the NFL is using this to convey, if you cooperate with us, which it appears that he did, we will go lighter on you, which I question, again, given the severity of what's happened.
Or the truth of statements that are made over a 2-year span and how they change over a 2-year span. Clinton Yates, join us.
One of the things that strikes me about Jamies Winston is he does not understand how extremely selfish he's been throughout the entirety of this situation. When you look at that statement and he talks about the fact that what I'm doing to move on with my life in my personal journey, you're a starting quarterback in the NFL. You're a role model to a lot of children in Florida and where you came from. You have to understand that it's not just about what you do in terms of how this affects your life and what goes on. It's about how other people view this, including the team that you play for, never mind who you've represented as far as Florida State and all these other places. So for him to come out and say this when he started this with, my Uber account should not be suspended as a result of a misunderstanding of what went on. You've got to believe that he has no real understanding about what all of this means to the entirety of everybody involved. And that, to me, is probably the saddest of all this. And I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for him in terms of the suspension that he's gotten.
Okay. Now, a question here. Do any of you wonder how the professional sports franchise goes forward throughout all this? Okay, they have somebody on their staff who is now serving suspension, who is admitting he needs help and is looking for clinical help, I believe, is part of the statement. But also, how do they proceed contractually, and how do they proceed with the greater conversation? Because there is a victim in all this, the Uber driver. Go ahead, Sarah Spain.
Well, at every turn, they've chosen to obfuscate as much as possible and use cliches and football terms instead of actually addressing the issue. Whether that was when he arrived and Lovie Smith said, this is a guy who's already been through a lot, so he'll be able to handle the NFL. Like, that means something powerful and meaningful about this guy. Like, when they had a Hard Knocks where it seemed like there must have been some under-the-table agreement that they would spend at least the first episode talking about what a great guy he is. At every turn, they've tried to present to us someone that Jameis himself is unable to present. And unless they decide to start being honest with their fans about who he is and what they're going to do to change him, I can't imagine that there's anything that they can do to make fans feel good about watching him line up and put a uniform on. They need to start to be honest and address the real issues.
This is their responsibility as much as Jameis's for the reasons that Sarah described, and they need to be clear about what they're doing, not be vague about, helping him with development and maturity. And it's not just about alcoholism. It is about how he treats women. Say those words, Tampa Bay.
And last word is Ru Gutierrez.
And I think because the NFL has already started this process and punished him, it's more of the responsibility for Tampa Bay because they know him better. The NFL had to investigate for months. They know Jameis. They know what kind of help maybe he might need. And I think it is definitely on them to further this punishment.
Appreciate your thoughts. We'll move on. NBA news of the day.
Well, LeBron James reached out to Kevin Durant via text, from what I'm told, about coming to Los Angeles. I don't know what Kevin Durant's response to him was. That is not the information that I got, but I will tell you what I did hear is that behind the scenes, Kevin Durant was like, why would I do that?
LeBron and KD talking. Quite frankly, how does that strike you, Israel? That LeBron would call Durant to see if there was any chance they could team up together? Maybe in Cleveland, maybe somewhere elsewhere.
So many interesting ways to pick this apart. I think the first thing that struck me is obviously LeBron is going for the biggest fish possible. If he's indeed the second best player in the league, he's arguably the most talented scorer in the league. If you're going to bring down the Golden State Warriors, what better way to do it than to take their most talented piece away and bring him to you? So I think that's one thing. It's also sort of the way the players see Kevin Durant, right? He already left one championship sort of ready situation, jumped into a more championship ready situation, and he's saying, well, why would he want to leave? Well, because he just leave. Maybe he will. And so if he jumps on board with me, maybe this is a new adventure for Kevin Durant. Maybe he's tired of winning back-to-back championships.
A new adventure. Here's a new adventure. It'd be a new adventure for the NBA. Wouldn't you say, Israel? Of players controlling their own destiny here. I'm going to bring in Clinton Yates here. And Clinton, you have been verbose on this show in the past over KD leaving and selecting Golden State as a destination and LeBron leaving, selecting Miami and then going back. How would you view all this? Two players talking about maybe working against the rest of the league and finding their own team.
I gotta say, at this stage of both of their careers, this is actually kind of low wattage for me. Of all the things that we talk about regarding LeBron James's off-season shenanigans and so forth, this to me seems like something that probably happens a lot more than people realize, that they just don't understand. There is an element here that I like, though, which is a potential conspiracy theory that he's simply trying to plant the seed in the Warriors' head that Kevin Durant may not be as happy at that place as he could be, and as a result, wherever he does end up going becomes a place that's got a little bit of an advantage in terms of what they do put together. That's the only thing I can see as far as the strategy on.
Low wattage, though. What type of rooms do you normally hang out in? A surface of the sun?
Big city, Tone.
KD and LeBron and low wattage? Mina Kimes.
It is remarkable that we're talking about LeBron as both, the biggest fish and the biggest fisherman at the same time this offseason. But Durant to Los Angeles just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense for basketball reasons for him. It doesn't make sense for the city. He's not like Kawhi and Paul George. It's not a place where he said he really wants to be. He actually, might prefer the Valley with the tech connections. And it wouldn't allow him to shed the mercenary label if that's something he cares about. What it does affirm for me is what we've been hearing for a while, which is that LeBron James knows he needs a second and possibly a third star. And if Kevin Durant got text from him, I can only imagine the winking emoji that Paul George and Kawhi must be getting every day now.
The only hope is LeBron sent it to the right Durant number, because maybe Durant's got a couple burner phones as well where he's got different numbers. Sarah Spain, where are you on this?
Well, LeBron's going to be just fine, but there was something sort of sad to me thinking about Kevin Durant and his teammates huddled around the phone laughing about LeBron asking him to come play with him. It seems a little sad, but you had to do it, right? You have to put out the feelers to everybody, and everybody's already made great points, so I'll add this one on. If you're an owner in the league and you've got some big name players on your team and you want to avoid collusion or tampering or any of the other things that the Lakers have probably already gotten fined for a couple times, don't you just tell your players to go after who you're looking at? Right? Hey, man, can you send a text to this guy? Because you're allowed to do it. Technically, the rules are okay with you doing it, which is why LeBron right now can, as Mina said, be the fisherman, the biggest GM in the league right now, who's going after everybody. And he's solo, but someone who's attached to a team can do the same.
Give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Make LeBron a fisherman, and everybody eats, right? On a banana boat. That's where they do the eating. Last word, Gutierrez.
More so than his last two moves, though. This one seems like there's more uncertainty here. He's texting Kevin Durant because he's not sure the Kawhi Leonard, Paul George thing is going to happen in L.A., so anything can happen.
How could you be sure of that?
That's what I meant by low wire.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so join forces, conjoin horses. Me, you, Giannis, ensconced in leather, whatever that was. Anything's possible at this moment. We're taking a break. Buy or sell is next. Stick around.
Enjoying horses.
AARP can help you become your healthiest self. It's why we offer health tips for your body and your brain. So take on today and every day with AARP. Learn how at takeontoday.aarp.
Buy or sell.
All fair and fair play. Japan, Colombia, England, Belgium. They're on to the knockout stage. Seeing how fair play, the tiebreaker, looms so large over today, does that have you thinking all's fair and fair play, Mina?
Well, first of all, if politeness was a factor in the scoring on this panel, I think I would clearly run away with it.
Is that a polite thing to say? I don't know about that, Mina.
It's just facts. But as far as the soccer, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I don't blame Japan. They're just taking advantage of the rules, and they were playing keep away. Senegal could have gone and gotten the ball from them. But it's not the best, I think, for the Cup. Why not just have penalty kicks, for example, to decide an outcome as a tiebreaker? I don't understand why you have to lean on something like this.
Sarah Spain?
I, for one, am glad we don't use fair play because I would be eliminated very early.
That is the most truthful statement we've heard today. There you go.
I got a red card every game my senior year in field hockey, and I'm proud of it. Fair play is a very interesting way to decide the beautiful game because then it's less of a meritocracy and it's more about, it's like foul shots without having to actually shoot the free throw. I agree with Mina. It'd be better if there was some sort of more legitimate way to decide, but everybody's up against the same rules, so I guess you do the best you can.
But the end result, you called it the beautiful game. End result is England, Belgium, two teams who have played as well as anybody in this whole tournament, had a game where maybe they didn't want to play so well. Maybe they didn't play as well as they could. Maybe we didn't get the best 90 minutes of soccer. Go ahead, Israel.
Yeah, it is so ridiculous because it is so subjective. I'd rather PKs like Mina offered there. But look, I'm going to talk about Japan here. It's survive and advance, baby. Their first game, they were Colombia red carded after what, 3 minutes, and they won that game. And then this game, they toyed around with those last 5 minutes and still couldn't real gamble because if Senegal would have scored, they would have been out. But they go through. Germany doesn't go through. Senegal doesn't go through. Japan survive and advance, baby. They're through.
Glenn Yates.
How did you guys plan on pulling off PKs on two teams that were playing in separate places? Here's the deal with fair play. The last option otherwise is something we like to call drawing lots. You know what that means in this country? Flipping a coin. So when it comes down to fair play, that's a better option than what you would do otherwise in this situation. The worst part about it, though,
if you're tracking who's getting the yellows, who's getting the reds, what type of maybe explicit or implicit bias is going on with referees giving out those cards when it comes down to something like that. Clinton, real quick, who's looked best in this tournament so far?
France is. I had them in the beginning. I think they look good. I like Belgium and England as well, but I think les Français still have it.
Israel.
Brazil, France, England, Croatia. Like, those are kind of the four I think have been playing the best.
Which team, Israel? Those are a great 4. Then fine, I'll do multiple teams too. I want Spain to win. I hope they start to look better, but if we're going just so far, Croatia's the surprise. 7 goals for
and Mina, who looked best for the final 10 minutes of one particular game yesterday?
Korea was amazing.
There you go.
England has surpassed my expectations, but I liked everyone's answers. Again, so nice.
Your video you posted yesterday of your mom watching South Korea play and their hands shaking on the screen. Incredible. I'm here for Korean Mom stream. We'll move on. Lakers and Spurs in the reopened channel of communication. Reported San Antonio is going to do it. They want more than what Cleveland got for Kyrie, more than Indiana got for Paul George. That's if they're going to do it. Sam Amick reporting Lakers are preparing a Godfather offer. Does anybody want to admit right now, like Pablo Torre, they've never seen The Godfather? I can go to the mattresses on the mute button right now if you want to admit that. Sarah, from the Lakers side, from the Spurs side, what makes sense here?
We all know Mina's at least read the Wikipedia for The Godfather, so she's good. Listen, I absolutely think that this is the right move for San Antonio. At one point, we thought they had no leverage here with Kawhi wanting out, but now we know they have all the leverage because we know he wants to go to LA, and with his one-year deal, any other team is not going to give up as much for him, not knowing if he's going to bail for LA. You don't want to give good stuff to someone in the West, that's great. If he goes somewhere else, he's just going to come back to LA next year possibly. So get as much as you can and play chicken because you have all the time in the world. You can wait till August, and they want you to make a move right now.
Even Boston, though? Boston doesn't have more to give San Antonio than LA? I wonder about that. Israel, how about you?
Boston has more to give, but with no guarantee that Kawhi is going to stay. I think, if you're the Spurs, there's a reason why they re-entertained the Lakers in these. They're playing it perfectly. They shut them down the first time, make the Lakers think that they're desperate because this domino has to drop for the others to happen. And so, bring me that Godfather offer. Bring me everybody because that's the only way you're going to get Kawhi.
Why?
That Godfather offer doesn't end the way I think people think beyond just the words being used. But anyway, I think this is definitely worth it for the Spurs because, listen, the Lakers played themselves by exposing their whole hand with the Magic Johnson situation, letting everybody know what they were going to do. Of course you're going to take all those players for one dude who's a one-time Finals MVP. Why would you not do that?
Okay, but you're saying the Lakers don't even have an offer that the Spurs can't refuse. That's basically what you're implying here.
Yes, and it's so ridiculous you'd have to do that. I mean,
Mina, do you agree with that?
I disagree. I mean, Kuzma, Ingram picks, it's a good offer, and they should throw it at San Antonio because they need to think of it this way. They're not just trading for one player. They're trading for 2. They're trading for LeBron also. It's like in junior high. When you want the coolest kid at school to come to your party, you have to invite his friend too. Say this is someone who clearly was not invited to a lot of parties, but I think that's how that works. And there's a bit of urgency to this, guys, because we keep assuming Kawhi is going to go there in 2019.
Okay.
We assume the same thing about Paul George.
Yes.
And guess
all
what?
right. Save it for your FaceTime. You're so fetch, Mina. We'll move on. Buy or sell 3. How Oregon State came back with 2 outs in the night, and Arkansas was 1 pitch away from the title.
Shotty's over there, so's Gates. Tough play. Wow. An extra life for
Beavers
Kevin
chopping through Big Suey, a College World Series deciding Game 3 tonight. Israel, you think a game-losing error like that will have a carryover into tonight's game-deciding 3?
I'm going to do something that you hate and compare it to another sport, but it's the only comparison I can think of. When the San Antonio Spurs, they'll tell you to this day that Game 7 against Miami, the Game 6 hangover was real, and they lost that Game 7. They weren't really there. So I think it can happen with college kids as well.
And Yates?
I was there last night, and I saw my man Carson Shaddy overran that ball, and his heart was broken after the game. I think Arkansas is going to be back in this. Here's the problem. The Oregon State Beavers score in bunches more than any team. They batted around 29 times this year and 10 times in the tournament. They score in bunches. It's going to be a problem.
And also, did you hear Clinton say he was there last night, came back to work for us today? Mina Kimes, how about you?
I'm afraid to praise him now. I don't think it will carry over, and I'm always reluctant to blame things like this in baseball because you could keep going back at every inning and blame another player for something. It's not really fair.
Sarah Spain.
Yeah, baseball more than any sport, I think, resets itself. You don't carry things over as much. It's about pitching. There's so many different things that can change night to night that I think actually, as much as those guys might be brokenhearted last night and they come in hoping to redeem themselves, there is a whole new game out there as a new pitcher takes the mound. I think
just make sure you tell your cohorts at Wrigley that Mr. Bartman, one play doesn't affect everything, okay?
Thanks for bringing it up. Haven't heard about it in a while. Yeah.
Kimes, Gutierrez. First to go. Spain. Yes. No need for fair play here. Let's get it on. Showdown. Sarah Spain, Clinton Yates. Good luck in showdown. Tom Ali is comparing Pat Mahomes to Brett Favre. So some questions. Is he fun? Does he play the game like a kid? Should he have thrown this ball, this ball, this ball, or this ball? Could he come back again and again and again? Does he wear Wranglers? Sarah. is a Favre comp fair way to start your career?
You forgot the most important question. Is he a gunslinger? And I think it's absolutely fair. It's not like you're going to go around comparing guys to middling quarterbacks who didn't do much. You're comparing for the ceiling, and that's Brett Favre.
Yeah, you're talking about a comparison with who? Alex Smith, who was his predecessor? Brett Favre is a massive upgrade from that as far as expectations for the Chiefs fans are concerned. This is excellent news for anybody who cares about that Kansas City franchise.
Okay. Yeah, nobody ever compares somebody to Steve Burlow. I mean, it's point for each. We'll move on. Manny Machado sweepstakes. Perhaps they're underway, perhaps with a bit more verve than Manny's trip down to first base here Tuesday night. He's apologized. That looks bad. Clinton? Apology necessary? Does that look bad?
I wouldn't say necessary, but definitely cool. I mean, here's the deal. Machado's been a very, very big-time fan favorite in that franchise for a long time. And if he's going to end up getting traded to the Dodgers or whomever it may be, that's not the way you want to go out. I appreciate the fact that he said, you know what, my bad, guys, I'm better.
Absolutely necessary. It's always necessary if you can't be bothered to sprint to first base, especially when the double play was that close. I don't care if you're staying or going.
Have you seen that team recently?
You're in.
Nobody's bothering to do anything in Camden Yards.
Manny's having a good year.
Yeah.
Sprinting to first place is exactly what Sarah Spain just did. FaceTime.
Well, some breaking news has hit the interwebs over the last few days, and at first it was just a rumor. The beloved song that you've heard at every wedding, graduation, cookout, barbecue, and probably danced along to, the Electric Slide, Boogie Woogie Woogie Woogie, is in fact, according to the author, Bunny Wailer, about a battery-powered adult toy. And he had a girlfriend who told him, I don't need you anymore, I got my electric slide. Everybody, boogie, woogie, woogie, woogie.
Okay, all right. That is the most Sarah Spain of all FaceTimes. That you're never ready for the Spanish.
Like a big Tonka truck?
23.5-hour break. We'll see you tomorrow.
Everyone in the neighborhood knew about Bobby. Bobby, the basketball boy, they called him. Bobby wanted to go pro someday, so he was always out in the driveway shooting hoops. But one day, his mom came out and told him, "Hey, your wife wants you to take out the trash." His mom was visiting, and Bobby was a grown man. He had kind of missed his window. Plus, no one had ever seen him actually make a basket. But on the other hand, Bobby had heard how Geico could save him money on car insurance, so he switched and saved. So it was all good.